Ready with me to open up a barbershop. Today we're going to be talking about Samson and Delilah. A little back history on Samson before we get into Samson and Delilah. Samson was a Nazarite born to parents who could not even have children. So Samson could not drink wine, he could not eat raisins, he could not touch any dead thing, and he could most definitely not cut his hair. And these are rules Samson's parents adhered to. Samson got older. Let's just say the women really caught Samson's eye, okay? And he loved him some Philistine women, okay? So Samson tells his daddy, look, I want that woman right there. And his dad is like, would you not prefer an Israelite son? Like all these women in our tribe, and you got to go against our normality. And Samson's like, I said I want her. You gonna get her, or do I got to get her for myself? Well, so that spirit of lust was already thriving through Samson. So in that specific story, Samson kills a lion because he's so strong, yada, 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 moving on. On that same carcass that he killed of the lion, he found that bees had made honey in the carcass of the lion's mouth, and he ate the honey out of the lion, which is dead, which he ain't supposed to touch. Again, just some back history. So he been not following rules for a minute. As he's preparing for his wedding, he gives a riddle to the 30 groomsmen, and he's like, if y'all solve it, I'll give y'all each y'all outfit for free. And if y'all don't solve it, y'all got to give me something. And so he tells them the riddle, and they took forever to figure it out. So they tell the bride, they're like, look, you need to figure out the answer because I want the prize. The bride is like, why? Goes to Samson, is like, why won't you tell me? If you love me, you'll tell me the answer to it. Like, why are you making this so difficult? You clearly don't want to be with me because you just won't tell me the answer to the riddle. So she was already trying to manipulate Samson into giving her the answer. And Samson is easily manipulated, and he gives her the answer. So she goes back and tells the groomsmen the answer. And so when they tell Samson the answer, Samson's like, y'all hoodwinked me. He was like, had y'all not gone to my fiance, y'all wouldn't have had the answer. But he's a man of his word. He went down and killed 30 men, took their belongings, and came back and gave it to the people who solved the riddle. But he was so mad, he went home to go back to his mama's house and didn't end up getting married. Well, when Samson decided he wasn't angry no more, he came back to marry his fiance. But his fiance had already been married to his best man. So the man that was supposed to be his father-in-law was like, look, I didn't think you were coming back, so I just wanted to marry my daughter off. Like, my apologies, you should have left a note or something. But I have a younger daughter, she's just as cute. She's yours if you want her, as an apology. But Samson was already too far gone. He was so upset. He tied 300 foxes together, lit them, put some torches on their tail, and sent them to their crops, and they burnt their crops down. He was not to be played with. That put him in a bad place with the Philistines. The Philistines did not like Samson from that point because he burnt down all their olive groves and vineyards. The Philistines tried many times to capture Samson. One time when they tried to capture him, Samson took a jawbone of a donkey he had just killed and killed 1,000 of them with a jawbone of a donkey. That man was strong beyond, like, it was ridiculous. Then we all caught up. Let's talk about Delilah. Samson runs into Delilah, who was from the village of Sorek, who was also a Philistine. But what he didn't know is she was working with the Philistines to try to entice Samson because they already knew Samson could easily be swindled by the ladies. They said, if you give us Samson, we'll give you 1,100 pieces of silver. And that girl was like, big. So Delilah starts on her shenanigans. Please tell me what makes you strong. What makes you so strong? What is your secret? Tell me. You can tell. What would I need to do if I were wanting to say, I don't know, tie you up securely? And Samson goes, well, if I was tied up with 7 bowstrings that were wet, that hadn't been dried yet, then I would probably be weak as anybody else. The Philistine rulers come in with 7 bowstrings to tie him up, and so Delilah hid them in the rooms. And so after they tied him up, she screams, Samson, the Philistines are here to capture you. When Samson comes to, he's like, pop, and them bowstrings just snap. Sometime after that, Delilah goes, Samson, you've been making fun of me and telling me lies. Please tell me how you can securely be tied up and captured. He's like, look, if you use 7 new ropes that have never been used, if you use 7 ropes that have never been used before, I will be as weak as anyone else. So Delilah took the ropes, like he said, and tied him up with them and hid them in her room so they could capture him. She then does the same thing. Samson, the Philistines are here to capture you. He snaps the ropes and we're in the same place. Delilah goes, you've been playing with me and I'm not playing with you. You better tell me how I can securely tie you up. He goes, okay, if you braid my hair into the looms of your belt, I'll be just as weak as anybody else. 7 braids, tie him up, and I'll be weak. Now please stop asking me. Same thing happened though. The man came to get him and he broke free, and they still didn't know how to capture Samson. So Delilah enters into this manipulation stage of, how can you tell me you love me if you won't even share this with me? You just keep lying to me. If we don't have honesty, we don't have anything. A lot of y'all operate in that spirit of Delilah, huh? Oof. Anyways, moving on. So Delilah kept nagging this man and nagging this man. How can you tell me you love me if you won't tell me your secret? Just kept going on and on. You know what? I should just leave since we don't have honesty. You done told me 3 times, 3 different lies. I don't know what to believe anymore. And he's like, you know what? I've never cut my hair because I'm a Nazarite. And if I were to cut my hair, I would be weak. Are you happy now? Please stop asking. So Delilah tells the Philistines, come back one more time. I think he's finally told me the truth, and I feel like we finally will be able to capture him. So Delilah puts Samson to sleep, and she lays his head on her lap, and she gives that man a bald fade. Not really, but she did cut off 7 locks of his hair, and when the men appeared, she cries, Samson, the Philistines are here to capture you. Samson hadn't realized the Lord had left him, and so when he tries to fight, he is easily defeated. So the Philistines capture Samson, gouge his eyes out, took him to Gaza where he was bound with bronze chains. Mind you, this was all because he burned down their crops over a girl. And while he was there, he was grinding grain in prison without any eyes. Just couldn't see, just eyeless. But before long, his hair began to grow back. So the Philistines were holding a festival for the capturing of Samson, and while they're doing all that hooping and hollering, Samson asked one of the servants' girls, can you place my hands between these 2 pillars? And so Samson prays to the Lord. He said, Lord, just remember me and give me strength again to pay back the Philistines for taking my eyes. And he pushes on the pillars falls, he kills himself, and I believe 3,000 men and women at that festival. At the time of Samson's death, he had judged in Israel for 20 years. Samson was so overpowered by lust, he abandoned his purpose for women. Although Samson turned away from God's will for his life, God still turned it around for Samson's good. See, we have this misconception that these little pet sins like lust and I don't know, anger can't overtake us, but those are the very things that the enemy uses very sneakily to separate us from God. I always cry about the separation, but we never talk about the disobedience that caused the separation. God didn't just separate himself from us just because. He did it because our choices pushed him away. And what was crazy to me is Samson was so far in lust, when Delilah cut his hair, he didn't even realize the Lord had left. That shook me. How deep in sin do you have to be to not even realize God is gone? The strength wasn't in Samson's hair. The strength was in Samson's obedience. The blessing is always tied to the obedience. The promise is always tied to the obedience, because if you're not doing what God asked you to do, how can he fulfill the promise through you? So I pray that if this message finds you, you may be thinking, why did Samson give Delilah so many chances when she clearly showed she was not for him? Baby, that's how we treat sin. We keep giving sin chance after chance, thinking it's going to love us back, but all it's going to do is betray us and break us down. See, you love sin, and the enemy knows that. But sin will never love you back. And just like Samson, your sin will catch up to you, resulting in death. I pray you don't get so wrapped up in your pet sin or any sin that you lose sensitivity to the Spirit. Allow God to free you from your sin, because the deeper you go into your sin, the further you separate yourself from God. So what you gonna do, sis? The ball is in your court. Have a good day. Bye.